of today and tomorrow. I still have a dream. It is a dream deeply rooted in the American dream. I have a dream that one day this nation will rise up, live out the true meaning of its creed. We hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal. I have a dream that one day on the red hills of Georgia, sons of former slaves and the sons of former slave owners will be able to sit down together at the table of brotherhood. I have a dream that one day.
Yeah. Welcome to The Way Ish Works. And yes, shit works like that too, everybody. This is version 2.0 with your boy Lucas Abram here and my homie.
Hey, Rob, Bobby from the Bronx.
Hi,
Rob South
everybody.
America.
Hi, everybody.
Welcome back.
Don't turn your... Yeah, if I'm wearing black, it's because I'm in mourning. Hail Satan. I'm kidding. Don't get too carried away. But guess what? We're here to bring you, in layman's terms, a little update. But today, I think we're going to do a little different, huh?
Yeah. We're going to flow in and out of a couple different grander concepts than news of the day. Feels like there's a lot going on that we should address, specifically about how to resist this branch of tyranny. And
tyranny specifically, when we're talking about the United States of America, because we're a podcast that actually we're refugee expats from the United States of America and
right.
America, Amerikk. I'm just kidding. Now, am I really though? Because we have run away. Me for 15 years now. You for a few years, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And wow, so I lived during the Obama administration. You lived during the Biden administration.
Right, yeah, that's pretty
This
much
is odd.
Yeah.
Because we left because of Trump, you and me because of Bush in a way.
And jobs, but yeah, definitely Bush and the Republicans aren't getting me to fly back to America anytime soon, so.
Hallelujah, praise the Lord. And that's what we're here to do. We're here as part of the independent media structure of democracy lovers who are sending out on Al Gore's interwebs our views, clues, news, and interviews that we're going to be using throughout these next coming months, weeks, what have you, because we're here to give it out in expat immigrant layman's terms. Now, normally what we did in our first session was a bit of a trial. And definitely not an error, because thank you to everybody who's been clipping on the views, who's been watching the show as well. I mean, we're garnering hundreds in totals. There's getting to thousands already, so we're really, really thankful for that. And what we're going to be doing today is breaking down certain things, as my brother said, in a flow way. But honestly, breaking down myths, that's one of the things that we want to do without any trademarking. We do want to bust some myths because... unfortunately, we're living in an ecosystem that has been taken over by the right. We're going to get to that later on in the hour. But we're serving up 2 hours today. And we're going to piggyback. We're piggybacking. We're in the studios of RCE 106.9. Shout out as well to our tech man, Liam, who helps all of this go on. And to our brother, John, back in the States. Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, because it's John, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Hello. I don't want to make mistakes here. We've got Luke. We got Juan. And but some of the things that we want to get to today, and I'm just going to throw up into this. Why don't you take it away, sir, for the first
absolutely.
act?
I think a very popular topic right now that is being misunderstood is the level of attention that the Democratic Party is paying towards resisting a lot of these Trump, want to say, 100 atrocities a day that are happening. They're purposely doing a blitzkrieg rapid fire to stifle a response, but a response is indeed happening. I just don't think it's getting enough play, and we should talk about it.
Why don't you think it's getting enough play? Because
I don't know. Like, I think a lot of the same problems that happened in the election are happening now, whereas Republicans are setting fires, the Democrats are firemen trying to put out fires, but their funding got cut for fire trucks.
Wait a minute. We're talking about California now, right?
No.
Okay, because everyone who put out seems to throw up another little one. And I think that's the idea. Now, I'm sure lots of people in the lamestream media have been saying for years, though, that the idea that he does specifically is to do this blitzkrieg, of which my brother has just mentioned, and smokescreen everyone to not realize what's going on over here when we have people that are, I mean, Big Balls is
in the Treasury. Big balls.
But no, he's also now, as of 2 days ago, the senior advisor to Secretary of State Marco Rubio.
Oh, fantastic.
Yes.
I didn't hear that one.
Yes, exactly.
Oh, my God.
As we're filming this in the middle of the weekend of the last weekend of February. And as of Friday yesterday, afternoon over here, but yeah, morning. He is now one of the senior advisors to Secretary of State Marco Rubio, who was caught like a deer in the headlights, which we'll also get to some of this, but we might as well talk about it right now because he was caught like a deer in the headlights with Russian statesmen who controlled everything that was going on and being said. I don't know if you saw any of these talks that were happening in Saudi Arabia.
Yeah, I got the gist that it's a 2 of 3 party equation talks, and I didn't know that it was a big balls foreign policy, though. That's a little...
Now, here's the other thing, though, that this is one of the things that I have a problem with mainstream media because there are not so many people could be reporting on this, and it's not. I get a lot of this through, and I have to give a shout out to Jen and Pumps over at I've Had It, the iHip News Girls, and I've Had It. Follow them if you're not on YouTube because you will piss your pants and learn a lot. But as well as that, these talks and things that are going on, when Trump said yesterday, everybody, or this week, let's say late this week in the last week of February or the penultimate, he said that Zelensky has thwarted meetings and that's why he doesn't have any say in the matter because he doesn't bring much to the table.
Just absolutely ridiculous. I'm a little thrown off that you don't have to necessarily support one side or the other in this conflict, but the President of the United States regurgitating crap that people talk about on 4chan echo chambers is kind of insane.
But not only that, it's what's being said in the Russian media, Russian state media.
And that's probably the more important part.
Russian state media, as of a month ago, uses words, rally cries, and ish shit, well, I'm just saying the bloody word, that Trump says as news clips for them.
Right. It's
because he's giving them their propaganda. Yep. And this is what's going on and on. You know, one of the girls from the iHip News that I just mentioned, she said she was finishing up a round of pickleball with one of her homegirls. Now, they live in Oklahoma City, apparently, which is a purple region of an incredibly red state. And that at the end of the pickleball game, her homegirl just started spewing forth stuff that was Russian propaganda. She said, "You know that you're listening to Russian propaganda, right?" She said, "No, you're not going to like where I got my information." She said, "Where did you get your information from?" Tucker Carlson. And she said, "Tucker Carlson is on the payroll."
6 of one, half of the dozen of the other. Yeah, absolutely. The entire right. Trump himself, they all live in this echo chamber. That's why we're doing the information battle that we're doing, because myths and lies are being spread through Russian propaganda outfits, and social media companies are profiting off
and through one of the major, of course, the right-wing conservative party of the United States of America. But then it filters over here, because what many people don't know is, in even our country of Spain, the Vox political party platform 2 years ago up until now has been make Spain great again. They want to put a wall between Ceuta and Melilla, which are cities that Spain still controls and has a mandate over in Muslim territory in Morocco. And a gun in every Spanish home. These are some of the, gangplanks that they walk upon in their platform of the Vox political party.
They're going to cut cancer research too. And
this is something else that they don't have that kind of idiot mentality. They do, obviously, but they also know that they have constituents who are going to vote, and if they do that kind of stuff, that just doesn't fly right. But also, where I believe that many people have to understand, because they do look at countries which are led by a socialist party like Spain, that it is some form of communism, fascism, autocracy, and things like that of that nature. Our leftist, liberal leftist, centro-left part morale is just where it takes off into progressive land is the base here in most of Europe. So that is just common to have equal rights, to have a little more parity, to have a better system of living, to have free healthcare, to have that's just the basic. That's a given. This is where we start with leftist policies. I would like to say that until 4:30 in the morning on Friday, Thursday into Friday, the Republican-led Senate voted down any extra taxes to be put on multi- and decamillionaires and billionaires. They voted it down to put the entire package onto the middle class, specifically people who make well under 70,000 a year. So, and the thing is, at this point, there is a sense of hopelessness, I think, because Democrats have only 47 votes into this.
Yeah, the Senate is basically run by full-blown cult members of Donald Trump. They passed every ridiculous, unqualified cabinet official so far, and they're going to do a multi-trillion-dollar budget-busting tax break and make people...
For the 1%.
The thing is, they're going to fund it by gutting healthcare by $800 billion. They're going to fund it by gutting cancer research and airplane safety organizations. It's pretty sick. I mean, it's what the Republican Party is doing. I can speak a lot about. I don't really have any clue about in Europe the knockoff versions. But
Well, I do, darling. I do.
Very good. So, I mean, we're sort of explaining one thing or the other. That's why they actually have you like fighting about culture war stuff so that they can go cut Medicaid by $800 billion. And then you talk about like the 10 trans athletes in sports. Like that's sort of the okey doke that's happening here.
Well, it is, but we have to fight against that. And because we have a major thing to do, because that's a double standard that the Democratic Party and people who are lovers of democracy have. Because they have to tell the truth and live in a reality, while the Republican Party never has to do that. For example, the 1 month polls of the approval ratings of the United States of America, Donald Trump, have come out. And they are the lowest in all actually presidential history.
For this period, yep, absolutely.
For 1 month
Lowest
after,
ever.
rating between 43 and 47%. Now, weeks into or days into, they were saying he has a 53% rating, and they've been really hightailing it off of that for the last 2 or 3 weeks. Well, the final results have come up, and it's you can go to the Real Clear Politics, which I kind of abhor their news section because it's extremely right wing.
Oh, absolutely.
But their aggregate of everything shows him between the 43 and 47% rating, when the typical 1 month entry of most people except Trump, is usually upwards of 60 and 60+%.
No, absolutely. Biden was, Obama was, pretty much every other president. When you first
Even
start,
Bush.
they have goodwill. You
Yes.
start, hey, okay, let's open this new chapter and see what's going on. Then he said, release the January 6 prisoners and gut the federal regulatory agencies and all the people that look into corruption in the federal government.
Brother, what do you know about inflation? I want to know about the inflation.
Oh, worse.
Exactly.
Literally worse.
And as we have it worse now than it was just 5 weeks ago under Grandpa Biden, President Grandpa, which later on in the show, in the next hour, because bitches, you got us for two. We're piggybacking off of my show, The Club with Lucas, which we stream out of here every Saturday at 11. And this is taking off. So we're going to play with this one for a while as well. Thank you again, man, for making this happen.
Listen, there's a need for this accurate information, and we have to just say what we have to say. I mean, I'm not going to be afraid. I'm not going to be afraid of the intimidation tactics that come from the government of my country, the right wing. They're not the free speech party in America at all. Try criticizing them once, and you'll find that out. We're not going to stop. We're not afraid. We like how we look on camera, so we're going to do this. We're going to do this a few times.
Now, you made mention here in one of your write-ups that the Republican Party has turned into a cult of personality. I would like for people who are watching this later on, this is going to get clipped and thrown out as well over the next couple of weeks. Look up the definition and any examples of communal narcissism, because this is also a major derivative of what the United States of America, most religions, I would say, obviously the cult of personalities and things of that nature, cults or sects in general, the Catholics.
What is it?
And communal narcissism is the collective group where a group of people tend to deify or raise onto a platform somebody who is their leader, politician, governor, pastor, and they hide them in such high esteem that it's right under God. And what they do is basically give a lot of their self-will and whatnot to whatever this person has to say. Usually there's some kind of religious text or some kind of book or governmental thing behind it. And so they completely turn themselves over to it. Now, what that does then, it's an issue of brainwashing over time. And what that does then is make them susceptible to whatever is going to happen.
You buy in at Gulf of America And then at the end of the day, you get into immigrants in Guantanamo Bay.
There you
the
go.
point is you sell out more and more of your integrity, more and more of like who you are. You become part of the blob, you become part of the group, and then you can't actually fight back because you're attacking your own personality. I never heard the term communal narcissism before, but that is a very
I mean,
accurate
if
way
we
to
look
describe
at it from, sorry to interrupt, man,
No, please.
but if we look at it from the Jim Jones crap with that's the drinking the Kool-Aid
Kool-Aid?
shit.
Oh, yeah. I had
Drinking
some
the
of that when I was
Kool-Aid
younger.
is when you have dived into the communal narcissism. It's, for over here, it's the National Front led by Marine Le Pen. It's this Vox crap that we're talking about. It's the extreme right-wing takeover in all manner of forms. Even with Catalan independence, this modern movement was a right-wing faction. This had nothing to do with, historical issues of Francesc Macià or Lluís Companys under Esquerra Republicana Catalana. It's a whole different thing. And so when the right infiltrates like this, it is easy. And what do? They use victimization.
Yeah. And they absolutely take like what might be a decent idea and then totally
Damn right.
And then
because
totally
you're talking about
demolish it.
Catalanista right here. I might not be
Yeah.
independentista, but I'm a Catalanista because I know who's taking care of me since I was 29 years old.
No, precisely.
For
So,
10 years, darling, I'm 39. We're 39.
forever. I'm not turning 40 next week at all.
Hell to the
That's
hell to the
not
no.
happening.
Hell to the no. Hell to the no.
I meant not to interrupt you there, but it
No,
makes
please.
there is absolutely an infection spreading, and the Republicans always seem to like tell on themselves when they say things like their catchwords and their buzz phrases.
Oh, my nerves.
But because
It is ridiculous.
it's very
true.
difficult to make progress in large societies, and it's a slow process. Improvements are better. Public health got better over a period of years and decades and centuries, even in some cases. There were rampant literacy. These things take time.
And we're going to talk about that with the education
we have an
department as
education
well.
segment as well. I shouldn't dive too deep, but
Child.
it's because these things happen that the regular person, the average person, doesn't feel like the positive changes happening in their lives. They become more susceptible to charlatanism. And movements that actually have decent points get completely co-opted and turn into these ridiculous cult of personalities where you're like attacking the poorest or the most marginalized groups of people as your means of political relevancy, and it's a disgrace.
It's a disgrace because on the Statue of Liberty and in the Bible, we're talking the words of Jesus, it is truly saying, bring me your tired, bring me your, I suffer the little children to come unto me, do unto others as you do unto yourselves. The least of them, a brother, is the most. And these people...
Jesus said something like that, I feel like.
I've just said, it's a mixture of Jesus Christ and some French words that were, into English, scribed on the Statue of Liberty.
I mean, America is a proving ground, right?
America!
Hey, listen, I love that I was born where I was born, and I'll always be an American, I'll always be a New Yorker.
Because you're proud to be an American.
Though I can't help but criticize when criticism is warranted. I can't help but dissect when dissection is warranted. And what's happening now, I mean, you just see like a month of chaos, a complete month of chaos, and full-blown lies.
I want to ask you, because my brother Rob here, if you didn't catch our Trial and Error episode 1, this is 2.0.
Go back and look that up.
He made amen, and you can also follow us on Instagram at The Way Works Now podcast, and at YouTube at The Way Shit Works Now as well. I think we're calling it The Way Ish Works for YouTube, so that's ISH for My Children of the Corn.
Yeah.
But The Way Ish is, and we have so many clips going on, and again, we just want to thank the thousands of views that have culminated in the last few days.
It's
We're
really been a little
blessed.
crazy. We've had a nice little following starting up. It's been fun.
And some questions from the DM. If you want to, throw us your DMs. We can even get you on here. We're going to be talking about some of the people and things that we're going to be talking about and introducing and interviewing in the weeks to come and months to come as well later on in the show. But what I would like to also offer our people here is, and our listeners, is an explanation or at least theories with hypothetical tests that have gone on to explain why this happens. Now, we did intimate this a little bit last time because Homeboy was was part of the Republican committee and party. Very much so. I was raised in extreme right. I mean, I was raised extreme right as a little boy in the 80s. But by the 90s, as a little man, like at 10, 11, 12, I had older siblings who showed me the way.
And thank God for that, right?
Okay.
So, when we had discussed on the last episode, I chose I was a could drink alcohol age adult that chose in America that chose the Republican Party because I believed a lot of the myths that are being believed now. That
Now, how did you get to that point of believing the myths? That's what I want to get to because that might explain why so many of the millions of people vote for this crap against their own interest.
I mean, there was a selfishness and an ignorance in my life that I didn't bother. I mean, what I had sort of came to the conclusion of was a very surface level understanding of the way civics and government, our interactions with government, and my knowledge of civics were happening. So,
But
when
where
I
were you
saw,
getting that information from? Or disinformation, might I say?
like social media? I hate to paint it with a broad brush, but like yeah, social media and books that I read of a conservative philosophy, people that have sold their souls long ago, but at the time I thought were true tellers, and I just sat there and said, hey, the federal government, why isn't everything better if the federal government works on some childish nonsense? When in reality, I didn't realize that there were saboteurs cutting programs that people need to actually pull themselves out of poverty, cutting healthcare programs, and taking all those savings and putting them towards the police state.
What is behind that mentality, do you wonder? I wonder.
You terms of the Republican Party cutting or my
And
mentality
your
back then?
views of what you were thinking, and again, we're talking about you like we were the victim.
Yeah, right. I mean, like, I just behind my thought process was I guess I had an uncle who was like, I was a college liberal, I guess, and I was pretty like into that field of my life. And my uncle was like, "Well, have you considered the other side?" And I was like, "Well, it sounds like shit." It was the Iraq War. George Bush had, I mean, how many other scandals at the time?
Yeah.
And then my uncle goes like, "Yeah, but there's a lot more to the Iraq War and blah 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 blah." So he said, "At least read this from a
And you're
general."
18 years old around
Yeah, I'm
that
like
time.
19, 20. Yeah, 19, 20 when I'm just starting to hear about the Republican sort of takes. And I don't know how I got it. Honestly, I don't know how I got into it. It was definitely a deep distrust of like I still to this day need to verify everything I see on a news program.
I want to ask you a really shitty question, but
Yeah,
it has to be asked.
Yeah. Go ahead.
If he hadn't been white, would he have been telling you these things?
Oh, maybe not. I mean, yeah, maybe not.
Where was he getting his information
My
from?
uncle? Oh, he was a Republican for sure.
Okay, so there's a Fox News thing going on.
Fox News for sure. Yeah,
Okay.
Fox News. And at the time, it was less social media. You know, we're talking about the birth, the infancy of social media.
Yeah, this was
so,
MySpace and Deezer times.
Yeah,
Okay.
Facebook, was around, but it wasn't a full-blown
it?
propaganda machine. Yeah, that came out around the same time. Yep.
Because this would have been around 2004.
Yeah, más o menos. Yep.
Was not if like
Five?
Facebook came out around 6, 7, 8, love?
It was
6?
It was initially just for colleges, if you remember.
Oh shit!
Yeah, so it
to
was out
find
for
hot
before it went
girls.
public. Yeah. So I was on
Never
there.
forget that. It was just Zuckerberg and those Waffle twins trying to get their dick wet. Okay.
Yeah. Well, very angry.
And look at it now. Now you can do porn on YouTube. I mean,
Facebook.
no, Twitter.
Oh, Twitter.
On
Yeah,
X,
that's
TwitX.
Twitter.
Now we got a little bit of porn going on up in there.
Well, that's a whole other.
Oh,
topic
Jesus.
altogether,
We're not
but-
going to get into that right now, but we do have a little bit of step-by-step advice that we would like. Now, Rob, can we
Surely.
throw that out before? Because then I want to get to a little song of a Barcelona artist that I want to throw out here because we can, because he's given us permission to.
Oh, fantastic. So yeah, I mean, to break into it quickly at the risk of an oversimplification, I wrote down a memo to discuss the analysis of like where we are now in the information space, what the Democratic Party in federal governments, state governments, local governments are, the steps they're taking to sort of at least throw sand in the gears. Mm-hmm. Because the fact of the matter is when you don't own a single house of Congress or the Supreme Court, your options are very limited. So I don't like that there are narratives out there like the Democratic Party, members of the whole Democratic Party just sitting there with their fingers up their noses doing nothing when they are doing all-night filibusters. They're doing town halls. They're filing dozens and dozens of lawsuits. They're using every single measure of bringing attention to the insanity and trying to stop the insanity, but they're not getting the actual. That's not.
He
crafting
quoted
media
Susan
narrative.
Powder, everybody. He just quoted Susan Powder. Stop the insanity.
Stop the insanity. So, I mean, what I want to talk about is how I think it's a lot more difficult to get on the same page with a very diverse coalition like the Democratic Party is. We're not a cult of personality. There's a lot of there's between you and I. There's a lot of differences in lived experiences and how we would go about things, and every single issue you could ever possibly imagine. So that is very difficult to have people get on the same page, and especially when it's a blitzkrieg and there's 100 fires a day to put out. So you could always pick one thing that isn't being done to your satisfaction. But the fact of the matter is, the number one weapon we have to stop this insanity and stop the fascism is to vote the fascists out.
Okay.
That's-
Why? Okay, at what point, rather, before we jump into the song, at what point do you think our fellow brethren and sisterin of the conservative Republican persuasion will actually... Which way should I look? Should I look it that way? Hi, guys.
Yeah.
Will actually realize, did I just do? I effed around and found out.
Well, hopefully these really terrible polls for them streaking underwater horribly, just horribly. I mean, I've never seen every single part of Trump's agenda is polling in the negative. He's even flipped the narrative that they're good on the economy, which we talked last time. He's in the negative. He's polling underwater on every single one of these because these are terrible ideas, and they're executed in a chaotic, negligent fashion.
Exactly.
So it's not. Maybe you can debate the quality of the ideas in terms of like deficits and government spending, but to just say taking a hatchet to everything day one, day two, firing CDC people when there's a bird flu issues, when there's measles spreading in multiple states, is insane.
It's absolutely insane. On top of that, they've just gutted even more, hundreds more out of the FAA. We just had our 5th crash from or within U.S. Northern American territory.
Yeah,
5th.
I think we're thinking 9 in the month that he's been here. About 9. Some of them have been deadly. Some of them have been, thank God, not.
I mean, the hand of God was on that Canadian flag. It turned over and caught on fire, and not a one died. Yeah. They did have 20-something that were taken in hospital. I don't know if a few still are in the hospital, but they're going to be fine. That's it. That come on now. It turned over and caught on fire, and these people survived.
This is a direct impact of government's relationship with people. Like, yeah, there should be an FAA. Yes, air safety should be something the government should be involved in. The reason why the FAA is being gutted is because they were looking into SpaceX negligence. Mm-hmm. And our president, Mr. Musk, said, "You're out of here, FAA leader. You're out of here."
Exactly.
And made him resign. And then they fired dozens and dozens of other people. In fact, I believe it's hundreds.
But they're trying to get a lot of these back.
No, that's the nuclear safety technicians.
Okay, there's the nuclear safe tech and the people with the bird flu.
Yeah, right.
As well.
The doctors and that, so that you don't have these issues. But, I mean, we'll figure all that out. Maybe we get into the steps after the break.
Okay. Yeah. Let's talk about these steps after the break. You know what? Every year here in Barcelona, there is something that we host called Fashion Cares. And Fashion Cares collects a lot of different money. And if you are an expat, if you're visiting Barcelona in the next month or so, in the next few weeks, on the 2nd of March, there's going to be a huge blowout about fashion, vintage, and sustainable living. All of the proceeds go to help women. We have a beautiful host of musicians that are playing from here. These are expat immigrants as well from the U.S. and U.K. This is one of them right now. We have a little bit of permission to flow some music from Barcelona straight to your beautiful eye and ear holes, if you're watching us on YouTube, of course. And this is Riviera, and we're going to play that little track for you right now. We'll be back in just a few minutes as we gather our wares on Al Gore's interwebs. Here's Riviera. We'll be right back. Yeah, baby. Riviera. You can find him where all good music is streamed. That song was called A Fool's Paradise, which is chosen why? Because we seem to be living one. Welcome back to The Way It Works Now podcast with your boys, Rob and Luke. Now, let's talk about some of these things that Dems can do.
Absolutely.
That democracy lovers can do to fight back this ish that's happening, not only just in the United States of America, but across the world, because it's happening in little pockets everywhere. Let's be real.
It's important to talk about, and also that we got permission for that song too. We got permission. Don't forget that.
Yes,
that
exactly. Thank you, Rye, and I will see you next Sunday.
Fantastic. So, I mean, what I want to get into specifically are things that I think that the party, the Democratic Party specifically, can get into, get their hands dirty and get knee deep into this information warfare.
Because we need to.
Because I think like we're not at the point where like you should be the bigger person. You're at the point where you should be refuting the disinformation constantly. And the ways I think the Democratic Party can do that is, I don't understand why the Democratic Party can't have a version of funded journalism. Like, if we have a Jeff Bezos funded journalism, why can't the Democratic Party fund journalism scholarships and start up production companies that follow journalistic principles to a T? I think it's an important element that we can be doing, like funding independent media, funding actual investigative journalism. Because do you know who's going in and out of the White House? I don't. And they cooked the books last time. That was a big issue.
I know that a bunch of 19 to 24-year-olds are coming in and out of the,
Big
not
balls.
necessarily the White House, for example, as our new senior advisor for the Secretary of State of the United States of America,
Totally qualified.
Little Marco, I'm a peon, and Russia controls me, Rubio.
Little Marco, absolutely.
If you see any of the footage, my children of the corn, you will see
I have to watch this, yes.
this mother effer is terrified.
To keep a job. To keep a job, man. That's what's ridiculous. No, Marco, you're not going to be president. Why do you, stop it? We don't want, the American public has decided they don't want...
Never gonna happen, bitch.
They don't want robots built in the Washington, D.C. factory. How many, senators have to keep losing elections before we understand that that's not the way it's going to work? Marco Rubio thinks he can, put his foot in both camps of normalcy and radical chaos.
And sexuality, let's be real.
Maybe. I mean, you probably
I can smell the gay, Marco. I can smell the gay.
You're a better authority on that
Child,
than I am.
please.
But I just don't understand, the necessary, if I belong to a party, if the Democratic Party required both of us to spew lies right now to keep them electorally viable, I
couldn't
would
do
walk
it.
off set.
I couldn't do it.
I'd be like,
Yeah.
I'm not reading this. I'm a free person, and I'm not a robot.
I'm feeling network right now. I want you to get angry.
Now we're hyped.
I want you to say, I'm sick of it and I'm not taking it anymore. And that is part of what is having to happen.
Part two of what I want the Democratic Party to do
Mortify.
is to set up a wiki of horrible Republican crap. So much is happening that things get forgotten. We're not even talking about January 6th insurrectionists being freed to get into more legal issues, whether it be child porn or shootouts with cops or whatever these maniacs are doing, and they're all maniacs.
Yes,
You
they
storm
are.
the Capitol to throw an election in the garbage, and you put a bunch of cops in the hospital to do it. We're not talking about so many of these issues that I believe the Democratic Party should create their own wiki of Republican evils. Statewide, judicial, legislative, federal, local town councils, and it should be easily accessible. We're in an information war. Secondarily, they set up, which I think is brilliant, a portal for whistleblowers. Because obviously, under Donald Trump, federal whistleblowers are not going to be protected.
What you talking about, boy?
It's not going to happen. If you remember the first time Trump tried to extort the president of Ukraine and that whole impeachment scandal,
And
they
now
do not
calling
protect
him a
whistleblowers.
dictator?
I
on the
can't
world
even,
stage?
I can't even, the man was invaded. It's like telling a woman who was beat, you have to make peace with your husband. Mm-hmm. It's just absolutely insane. It's
Yeah,
just
it is.
absolutely insane. But I get off on that whole thing. But the wiki of evil Republican crap and a portal very similar to the portal that the senators set up for whistleblowers in federal government to report on the ground Republican malfeasance. I think it's an important issue. We have all sorts of different portals like that. These two things can help inform people very, very much. A one-stop shop information source for all of the, I don't want to say the word, I'll just call it malfeasance that the Republican Party is up to, and people on the ground being able to report it. I believe these are two critical initiatives to go along with the first, that the Democratic Party should be funding journalism and should be helping helping fill these gaps in scientific research as well. It's a big problem for us to actually, like, as a country that should be spending some of its enormous wealth, and I mean America, towards the betterment of society as a whole via scientific research, via humanitarian aid, things of that nature. I think the Democratic Party could take a big step forward on public service. Let's get a bunch more Democrats at homeless shelters and food banks and all kinds of things like that.
When you say that, do you mean the laymen like ourselves?
No,
and
I
people
mean
like
the party
that?
members.
Okay. And we need the party members going on every single type of media.
And better, even
podcasting,
Republican media.
YouTubing.
I want to see Mayor Pete take a tour and collect heads of all the Dude Bro podcasts. And you don't have to go in there and talk down to people and get into you just have to hear the facts. Let's go Dude Bro number 1. Let's go Dude Bro number 2. Another thing I think the Democratic Party should do is to stem the bleeding with two groups of people: older Hispanic voters and union rank and file. Older Hispanic voters can be very much convinced that Donald Trump is acting like every single strongman dictator that's ever lived. And the Republican Party is gutting core social safety net programs that disproportionately impact non-white citizens in America, and they are a whites-only club, the Donald Trump Republican Party.
It is, in fact, I believe that Little Marco. And what's his name? Kash Patel, the new FBI director.
I'm sorry, there are two. There are two. That's all. Sorry.
But 99.8% is a white Anglo-Saxon Protestant thing. And that, of course, it would make sense to at least 55% of the cabinet, because that is the actual population stipulation of the country. But when we have representative government and we don't have the other represented, thereby becomes a problem. The Hispanic vote outside of our white brothers and sisters is the largest voting bloc in the United States of America.
Growing every day.
In fact, almost 23% of the population is Latino, Hispanic.
And like we said earlier when we first met, actually, that these are fragmented communities, they're neighborhoods, they're regions.
It's not an all-encompassing vote.
Right,
I was
like
raised
Dominicans in the Bronx don't vote for the same things as Cubans in Miami, don't vote for the same
or
things
Mexicans in country clubs in Texas.
Right, exactly.
Okay.
So I think, though, making a more general
God
appeal...
bless America.
It's the melting pot, the mosaic. It's a beautiful thing. America's economy is a juggernaut of historic proportions never before seen, because of the diversity, because of immigration, because of the fact that everybody came to America trying to make a better life for themselves and their families.
United States of America, by the way.
Yeah.
United States of America. I really want to specify that, because Canada is America, the Latin American regions.
South America, Central, of course.
And so, but the United States of America. Speaking of, before we jump into anything else, I really want to get back into the education thing, because one of the things that I would like for people to know is that this was, apparently this was a in-level cabinet department thing that was set up in 1838. The federalization of education was set up. Now, the idea, though, really did not gain anything until after the Reconstruction period of the 50s, the 60s, and of course, that was also when things were being set up with, for example, Brown versus the Board of Education in 1955, which mandated that there be integration of people of color with white schools. Now, of course, this caused all manner of things like white flight and white fright.
The Nixon strategy.
It was real pretty. Explain that quickly, please, in a couple of sentences. The Nixon strategy.
In the Carter era, in the post-Nixon collapse, the Carter era is where the modern Department of Education that we know exists, got its actual beginnings. But the federal government attempted this a century earlier. The Nixon strategy, though, that's a curveball. He said none of these Southern white people seem to like the Civil Rights Act. None of these Southern white people seem to like the Voting Rights Act. Let's go appeal to them. And that's basically the Nixon strategy. And that's why we see the flip. The Democratic Party from the Civil War up until the Civil Rights era is basically what the Republican Party is now.
Exactly.
They just flipped.
It was that.
Yeah,
it was that.
They just flipped. It was very clear that segregation, the evils of slavery and segregation, were fueling a change in the country, and the Democratic Party changed because of that. And the Republican Party said, "Let me clean up all those garbage people that don't want the Civil Rights Act and the Voting Rights Act and civil rights to happen." And that's where we are now. That's why they don't want to teach about slavery. That's why they want to keep military bases named after Confederates, or change them back to be what they were.
But wait a minute, we're not talking about that, Bragg. We're talking about
yes. Sorry.
a fighter named Bragg. Did you realize that they're not about? It's actually a cadet named Bragg that they're changing the name to.
Oh, lovely.
So they found a way to, I mean, here in Spain they're called vacíos. We call them loopholes to try to make it back. But it's harkening back to a Southern criminal, okay, and traitor to the United States of America and everything that it used to stand for.
Everything old is new again, right? The Republican Party loves insurrectionists again.
Well, speaking
Old
of, final, because I
new
want to
ones.
circle back to that education thing. Linda McMahon. Who the is Linda McMahon?
You don't watch professional wrestling?
I'm
You're
gonna
not-
tell you, this is God's country.
What do you mean?
Now, tell us now. Linda McMahon is the beat up wife, right?
She is.
Was he?
Some would
I
say
saw a
enabler,
video
Some would say enabler.
where they were hitting each other.
The relationship between that couple's been covered in a Netflix documentary almost extensively. You can watch that, Mr. McMahon. But I gotta be careful what we say.
Amen. Let's do that.
Linda
Amen.
McMahon-
Allegedly.
Allegedly. No, they ran a professional wrestling company and it became $1 billion company. Great. I watch a little bit sometimes to learn how to be a better character on shows like this.
Please don't hit me.
But yeah, with a chair, with an actual over the head.
And I'll act like I got hit.
Linda
We're gonna plan this out.
Linda McMahon donated a metric ton of money to Trump's various PACs and helping him get elected. And then, what a coincidence! She got the job of Secretary of the Department, Secretary of Education.
Now, in the the Secretary of Education, what is her background in education and teaching?
I mean, very, 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 very minimal at best. She's not actually somebody who's ever run like an education department. She's not somebody that's run schools. She got the job. It's not a matter of qualifications. It never has been. This is the didn't earn it administration that has an alcoholic Fox News host running the Pentagon. Linda McMahon is not qualified for the job she's in. She's not. She just is not. He had her run the Small Business Administration as another payoff for the first administration. So, and that made sense because she ran a small business and then it became $1 billion company. I was almost not against that. But the fact that you're putting one of your biggest donors into a department that you're trying to gut and slash and burn and destroy, because the Department of Education is in the targets, but so is all public education. Like, the Republican Party, as it stands right now, does not want tax dollars to go towards informing education. They don't want that money to go there unless they can teach you their version of history.
And
their version of patriotism.
This is what's happening, because in certain districts and school districts in the United States of America, specifically Texas, where I was born, they are teaching a gentle version of the Holocaust.
I remember you telling me
where
that.
some of the SS officers, they had decent relations with the poor Jews. And of course, if you are in 11th or 12th grade and uni prep or prepping to go to university, college, formation, whatever have you, vocational, if you cannot learn about African American studies in high school in Florida, it's not. You can learn about Irish American studies, you can learn about Mexican American, you can learn about Japanese American, you can learn about blah, blah, blah. You cannot learn about African American studies because, again, it goes back to it makes some of our white students feel guilty.
Well, it was their last scare phrase. Now it's DEI is their scare phrase. Back then it was woke mind virus. Remember woke mind virus?
I remember. I'm still hearing the one? Trump derangement syndrome rather. We're going to talk a little bit about that when we come back. Though I want to talk about a little more that folks can do to fight back. I do want to talk a little bit about boycotting later on as well, and a little bit of things about books that can educate yourself in a very easy way. A lot of them can be found for free on YouTube, but I want to throw a little bit of music as well. Somebody else is going to be playing at our Fashion Cares event here in the beautiful city of Barcelona. Tori Sparks actually is the reigning queen of flamenco rock here in Spain. She is a badass broad, and she's also one of my dearest friends. So I love you, sister. This is her take of Leonard Cohen's Everybody Knows, because everybody knows that what we're talking about is a ton of truth, and it's all able to be found with Al Gore's interwebs. Yes, I'm going to keep saying that forever, and ever. This is Tori Sparks, and Everybody Knows. We'll be back in about 4 minutes and how to join the fight, children.
Thanks, Tori.
Let the dice are loaded. Everybody rolls with their fingers crossed. Everybody knows the war is over. Everybody knows the good guys lost. Everybody knows that the fight was fixed. The poor stay poor, the rich get rich. That's how it goes. Everybody knows. Everybody knows that the boat is leaking. Everybody knows that the captain lied. Everybody got this broken feeling, like their father or the dog just died. Everybody talking to their pockets. Everybody wants a box of chocolates and a long stem rose. Everybody knows. Everybody knows that you love me, baby. Everybody knows that you really do. Everybody knows that you've been faithful, or give or take a night or two. Everybody knows that you've been discreet. There were so many people you just had to meet without your clothes. And everybody knows. Everybody knows. Everybody knows. That's how things go. Everybody knows. Everybody knows. Everybody knows. That's how things go. Everybody knows. Everybody knows that it's now or never. Everybody knows that it's me or you. Everybody knows that you live forever. Yeah, when you've done a lot or two. Everybody knows the deal is rotten. Old Black Joe's still picking cotton for your ribbons and bows. Everybody knows. Everybody knows that the plague is coming. Everybody knows that it's moving fast.
Yeah, we do.
The plague is coming. Bird flu, make measles great again. Tori Sparks, isn't she amazing? That
She
voice
is a badass.
wow.
And folks, again, where all good
Wow.
music is streamed. And you can't stream it enough because Lord knows they're telling the truth now about. Thank you. A shout out again to women like Tori Sparks, to women like Chapel Rowan, who actually tell the truth and say how to support local artists. And by the way, you want to see them live. That's the main way to support local artists.
Absolutely.
Because nobody buys millions and millions and millions of copies of discs anymore.
put on a
Let's
lot
get
of
back to
concerts
this.
myself,
I mean,
but-
I have 3,000 CDs at home and I listen to them every day.
I am a nerd and I still live like it's 1999.
It's good because now they want you to rent everything. So, like, you won't be able to own it soon enough anyway. So you might as well keep your CDs.
You might as well act like you know, children. If you don't know, now you know.
Well,
To
Tori,
quote
we love
Biggie,
you. Thank you for allowing
Thank you,
us to
Lady
use
T.
that
Thank you,
song.
Lady
which
T. And again, I will see you next weekend as well.
she definitely
No.
allowed us to use that. So, okay, the last two things.
And I love how you keep saying that.
I'm the law-minded guy in the group. Two quick things. I just
Yes,
wanted to follow
please,
up on
man.
this before we get into we
Shoot.
the people and how we the people can be a more effective fascism fighting force.
Amen.
I want to talk about two last things that I believe the Democratic Party leadership should get involved in. Very importantly. Number one, there's an effort by muckrock.com, which you should look into. Muckrock is an amazing agency that handles Freedom of Information Act requests of the federal government. They help you submit them. They help you go through them. They're running a campaign now called Save the Data. And we have to be worried about these like grants and scholarships and this federal data that could just disappear off the face of the earth ever. I'm very worried about the progress that's being made via NIH and government grants on, like, say, Alzheimer's and cancer research. But there's other critical information the federal government has that we have no idea whatsoever is going to be remain safe under Big Balls' leadership, Secretary Big Balls. We have no idea if any of this federal data is. So the Democratic Party can take a very strong hand in getting involved in preserving this federal data so it doesn't get set to the torch by modern-day book burners. Number two.
Please, sir.
Number two, the Democratic Party should probably take the time to go on a nationwide tour of union halls.
Testify. Now tell why.
Because the union, I was a union member for 13, 14 years, SEIU membership, and I'm a big advocate of unions. I believe that I do believe what Biden had always said, when unions are strong, America is strong. They are the number one difference in wealth inequality. Unionized workforces are very much closer. Like the wealth disparity is less between unionized workforces and rich people. And I believe the Democratic Party should take these meetings, take these opportunities, and go to union halls throughout the country. Take the tough questions. If you're getting QAnon questions from Trump supporters, take them. But show the support, make the tours, make it happen.
Be prepared as well with fact.
Of course, yeah.
Video if necessary. We'll get to some videos, clips as well. Just a bit.
Talk to the union halls. Maybe don't let Bernie be the only one doing it. Like, if you're working a state, if you're a district rep, you're a state senator, go to a union hall. Talk to the workers there. Start that process because we need this coalition to be strong and vibrant. And we do have a significant portion of union workforce that does vote Democrats because they understand their financial benefit is to vote for the party that isn't constantly attacking collective bargaining rights like the Republican Party is. They understand that voting for the Democratic Party isn't voting for a corporatist Republican Party that is pro-management, not pro-worker. So I think the Democratic Party leadership, get Obama on it. Maybe when he's done with his next Netflix show, he can go tour some union halls and we can start talking to the workforce of America that does not want to see drastic, ridiculous cuts to healthcare, drastic, ridiculous cuts.
They can't afford it.
They're going to gut your Social Security. They're coming for it. They're already talking about ways that they can make it more difficult for you to attain Social Security if you're disabled. They're already raising the retirement age. The Republican Party doesn't care about the fiscal conservatism, but they are going after these core safety net programs that we all need.
And they seem to act like they care about the Christian component of it all.
No.
And everything that he's talked about is completely anti the words of Christ. It is completely anti any type of faith, frankly. All faiths.
Turn the other cheek became pick on the marginalized.
Exactly.
What?
And the thing is, can we talk about the rampant hidden homosexuality within the Christian churches? I mean, need I say, just a few months ago, the one archdiocese, Los Angeles, had to pay out over $880 million for all of the rapings they've been doing for decades to children.
The Catholic Church in America has a very similar history, unfortunately, and it's probably time.
It is that. It was the archdiocese of the Catholic Church.
I'm sorry,
of LA. You add that to the $1.2 billion that the original one that hosted the movie, the Oscar-winning movie Spotlight of Boston. That's $2 billion just from two archdioceses. In the world, there are thousands of them. We're talking trillions probably that they've had to pay out.
Can everyone tell we're big George Carlin fans?
Huge George Carlin, may he rest in power forever and ever. Well, now, I also want to say that you were at a protest this week, man. Here in Barcelona.
Perfect segue.
It is, because what would George do?
What would we the people do? What are we the people doing?
Thank you for doing that, because I was working like a bitch, but please.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll be at the next one, and the next one, and the next one, and the one after that.
Bro.
So that's part of the initiatives that I think we the people can engage in more. It actually does matter. So what the amazing and beautiful and intelligent Annie Grohl, our leader, our warrior, the Democrats, DA Barcelona groups, she helped organize very much. It wasn't like pre-planned until like a few days or so before. We came to realize that there were going to be national protests on President's Day.
Yeah, man.
Protesting the chaos, protesting the negligence, protesting the radicalism of the Trump administration. And so Annie and a bunch of people got the permits. Barcelona is very kind to you with the proper permitting. And we got, I want to say 50, a little over 50. There was probably a handful of kids, so probably 55 or so people that were actually protesting in unison at the exact same time with the protest going on in America, but also came together for cause of action. And so I, after begging anyone else to speak first, because I didn't imagine I should be the one person speaking to everybody, but everybody else passed, so I did. I discussed
you for
plans of
speaking.
attack. Of course. No, I love the energy. I think we have the numbers. We prove that we do. The Republicans don't. This is the second time the Republicans have won a popular vote in
Since
decades.
1988.
I mean, you
Since
had
1988,
Well-
2004, and this time.
Yeah, exactly. They don't win the popular vote, so we can understand that where America's leanings are when Republicans don't win the popular vote. And this time he won it by 1.7, 1.6%, whatever.
That's it.
So what we can do, and what I
1.4.
discussed with my group of protesters, my fellow protesters on President's Day, was that there are two massive elections coming up in April 1st. Two of them. Number one would be the Wisconsin State Supreme Court hanging in the balance, liberal versus conservative, and a constitutional amendment enshrining Republican voter suppression tactics into the state constitution.
So who's wanting to put that? The Democrats want to put
No.
suppression?
Republicans have
No,
put-
I'm kidding.
Yeah.
I'm being facetious as usual. And the question goes back to, as I always do, start with why. Why would anybody who gives an ish about themselves, their people, their life, their democracy, their republic, why would you do that in 2025? And I assure you, it's all those damn black people, trans, and Latinos that are doing this.
According to Republicans, yeah.
No, putting these sanctions and putting these types of things into the marketplace. I'm trying to, obviously, again, I'm being facetious. And a
No,
motherfucker.
yeah.
Because it is, again, our white Anglo-Saxon Protestant brothers and sisters who think of these things to do it. Why do you think they do this still?
Think that way and vote that way.
And put these types of stipulations in. Or stupid, idiotic things like, let's make Greenlandia name Red, White, and Bluelandia.
Or like the SAVE Act, where you're going to have the same name on your birth certificate as you do your ID when you register to vote, which means every single woman that's changed their name, every single trans person that's changed their name no longer would have the right federally to vote. Mm-hmm. This is a Republican-fueled issue. Voter suppression is a Republican-fueled issue. I have a book we're going to talk about on the next episode about voter suppression.
Yeah.
But I genuinely believe that we need to turn out hard for this state Supreme Court race. Elon is pumping money into it. President Elon is pumping money into this this Wisconsin State Supreme Court race. It is massive. But
Do you
number
think
two,
George, really quickly, sir, do you think George Soros should be pumping in money to
I
this?
mean, he does. George Soros is the good version of Elon, right? Like he actually puts money towards hunger.
I
He
don't like
puts
to
money
equate
towards-
any good version of anything to that man.
Right, he
That
is.
South African.
Yeah, the guy who used the R word about astronauts, which I want to use that to describe him so bad, but it is very wrong.
Wow, he did not.
Yeah, he got into a whole beef with the lunar team over on Twitter. But I'm getting off on a tangent.
Yeah, sorry, brother. My bad.
The number two thing that I think is critically important for us to do, it's a lot of crazy shit, right? So it's hard to stay on topic because it reminds you of another horrible thing that's being done. But we should talk about the horrible thing, and then the third horrible thing, and then the fourth horrible thing.
But let's keep on topic.
Yes. So the number
Because-
two thing that
Yeah,
I
no.
told the group of people that we were protesting with, and I've told every single chat that I've been involved in,
Listen
is
up.
2 U.S. House of Representatives races on April 1st in Florida as well. These are heavily red districts, obviously. Matt Gaetz' seat, that guy, Matt Gaetz, what can say about him? But 2 Republican House seats, which will bring the House of Representatives to a tie if the Democratic Party can actually take these seats. Now, I know it's a difficult track, it's a difficult path. These are very Republican seats, but Trump has lost a lot of very Republican seats over his term. The payoff for this race is massive. It's the difference between legalizing everything Trump has done for the past month or having a check on everything Trump has done for the past month.
So if those 3 seats somehow miraculously, and I do believe Wisconsin could be in the mix, but
No, Wisconsin's
the 2
not
Florida
gonna be
seats is going to be
It's hard. It's hard. It has happened. Plenty of Trump plus infinity seats have flipped in the Trump term.
Look next door in Georgia, just a few years ago, when they re-won 2 Senate seats in Georgia for the Democrats.
Right,
So
right.
stranger things have happened to
And
a
it's
black
worth-
brother and a Jewish brother. So stranger things have happened. But I would also like to say, if that balance of power then comes down to, what would it be? Would it be
217. They would not be able to pass laws.
But would, my opinion, gay man Mike Johnson still be The leader?
In a tie situation, I think there was very similar to the Senate tie in the 2020 to 2022 terminology. There would be a power sharing agreement. Who an actual Speaker of the House is actually a pertinent constitutional question that I should look up. I don't have the answer to that. But the point of the matter
share?
is,
I wonder if they could share the power of the Speaker.
interesting point. But the point, we could derail their entire legislative agenda in one day.
That's right.
In one day. So that payoff is so massive. I don't care if it's Trump plus 1,000. Phone bank. Send postcards. If you have money, send money.
Yeah.
Work on these two, Wisconsin and Florida. Take the country back. And Florida, of course, has to be marketed to differently than Wisconsin. Wisconsin is a swing state. Plenty of red, plenty of blue. It's very purple. Florida, these are heavily Republican Florida districts. And so what my advice was, not to approach it as a anti-Trump campaign, approach it as a, did you vote for Elon and Big Balls to strip your health care?
And how can you do this? One of the ways that you can do this, short of the corner, is going to commoncause.org and find your representative and ply them daily. You can even just set up a text chain, a WhatsApp chain. I don't know if they do that, but you're on a phone chain that just bothers and calls them daily. You can get that again. I want to make that pertinent. www.commoncause.org/find-your-representative. That information is pivotal to letting, specifically in Republican states and purple states, know we ain't standing for this shit. Another thing that I would like to say that you can do is start boycotting.
Oh, okay? Absolutely.
We've already seen, apparently, the sales of Target have flushed by over 40% because they've decided to take out any DEI stipulations that they had in their workforce and hiring. This stuff is the stuff that we need to be doing this.
Yeah.
Okay? Whereas
fascist enabler companies.
But another one, Costco, has decided to put more efforts into their DEI. Because guess who's included mostly than anybody in the DEI? The highest per population of the countries of every Western country, females.
Veterans, U.S. military veterans are covered.
But when you think that the highest population is the equity and parity part of our DEI, is females, that is the highest population. They have now, reports and statistics used to say that it would be well past 2050 before women were 50% of the workforce. That happened a few years ago at the pandemic. So shit's changing. Be aware of that. Here's another thing that you can start doing. You yourself can start doing right now. Stop buying from Amazon.com. That mother effing Californian Jeff Bezos Latino piece of ash doesn't need your money. Keep your money in there. Think local. Okay? Buy local. Act local. Because this is what we need to be doing. I really want to shout this out to Europe right now. Because Europe is having to have its own meetings. While Saudi Arabia, Russia, and the United States are deciding what they want to do to Ukraine, our backyard neighbors, Europe is having to have their own. And we can't blame them. Because we can't trust these mother effers. Because he's already, this Trump went out this week and said that Volodymyr Zelensky is a dictator, that they need to throw him out and have new elections, that no matter what, he was the one that was guilty for doing this and starting this war exactly this week, 3 years ago. Yes, sir.
So I completely agree in that sense that what we're having is a moment that if these large corporations respond to dollars and cents. Mm-hmm. So there is
not sense.
Yeah, not common sense. But there is absolutely power in boycotting. It's been a massive part of every protest movement ad infinitum. Like it's been a huge component that we should all participate in. Find these companies that are funding insurrectionists. Find these companies that are giving thinly veiled bribe lawsuit settlements for frivolous lawsuits to Trump, Vice President Trump. Make sure you
Vice President Trump.
Make sure you take care. Well, I always said like Trump's the puppet president, Elon's the pretend president, Putin is the real president. Under the Trump regime, this is how it goes, and it's a really pathetic state of affairs.
Something my brother wrote up to: your media options have to change. This week,
100%.
For the first time, straight up liberal media has taken over as the #1 podcast. The Midas Touch, shout out to Ben, to Mycelis Brothers and the boys and all of them. Adam Mockler is my favorite. That's tag along, but he has his own show. But he's a tag along off of Midas Touch. But he's such a sweetheart. This kid is, I think, 22 in university, and Mockler, look him up. Mockler. He is part. I think his father is Middle Eastern. His mother is a white sister. This kid, he is such a truth teller. Now, also, Rachel Maddow is on for the first 100 days. Now, she is the queen of investigative journalists. She's also the most watched and most listened to investigative journalist in the United States, who's actually a truth teller. I mean, Tucker Carlson is not.
Right.
So she has her show on again, 5 days a week, calling it out, and massive backlash started happening within the White House and the perimeter because she laid out how on her February 18th show, and I would advise anybody to find it and watch it, on how it is so obvious that he is in bed and being paid by Putin or is being mandated by Putin to do all these things because he does not, Drumpf does not want to talk about everything. He wants to talk about everything all the time and what anybody's been saying, but he does not want to. I don't think it's appropriate. I don't want to talk about that. I don't want to talk about that.
Why is the guy who will tell you his opinion about toilets flushing, why is the president who will talk about toilets afraid to talk
We'll
about
talk about
food?
Melania's operations. I would tell you if she was having a facelift.
It really
Child,
doesn't make
please.
any sense. We didn't actually think we'd get into this topic, but I will get into it because it is a historic disgrace that the sitting president of the elected president of the United States, the puppet president, is actively spewing RT 4chan disinformation.
Right.
Like he believes it.
But this is their modus operandi. And in fact, on Fox News the other day, on the 5 of Fox News, they had, and we're going to throw a little bit of clip. It's honestly 20, 30 seconds of it. I want you to listen to it right now.
This is their
please.
strategy.
This is their strategy. Our boy Liam is going to throw this up on there. And just take a quick listen for it and see what Jesse Waters had to say about this. We're being told. Now, Jesse Waters is taking over
Bootleg Tucker Carlson.
Tucker Carlson.
Yeah, he's
Let's see
bootleg
what he had to
Tucker
say. Just 30 seconds. Let's listen to this clip right now.
Information warfare campaign against the left, and they are using tactics from the 1990s. They are holding tiny press conferences, tiny little rallies. They're screaming into the ether on MSNBC. This is what you call top-down command and control. You get your talking points from a newspaper, and you put it on the broadcast network, and then it disappears. What you're seeing on the right is asymmetrical. It's like grassroots guerrilla warfare. Someone says something on social media, Musk retweets it, Rogan podcasts it, Fox broadcasts it, and by the time it reaches everybody, millions of people have seen it. It's free money. And we're actually talking about expressing information. They are
expressing
suppressing
information.
Can you, he gave the game away. I
gave
wrote a
the game away.
7-page article, and he gave the game away in 10 seconds.
So he's basically saying they're trying to do truth efforts and civil efforts and social efforts, and someone tweets something, that's any mother effer, tweets something, Elon retweets it, and it goes out. That's money. This is the interest. They don't give an ish about the way shit's really working. They want you to think it's working a different way because the ideas of smoke screening everything, of false flagging things, of wag the dogging things has been the modus operandi. And I remember when 1996, I was still in high school then, when Fox started, it was fair and balanced. Do you remember that?
I do.
Fair and balanced. We took Greta Van Susteren, this weird facelift broad from CNN, child heifer, and we're going to throw all these people and their rapist money. George Ailes, rapist. What's his name? The other one? Rapist. Literally had to pay off for that.
They had to pay.
Sexual harasser, allegedly.
Yeah, allegedly, but when you pay
Ailes
off,
is dead. That mother effer, we know what happened.
you had to pay. You don't make all these payoffs. They're the party of payoffs. They're the party of silencing people. But what he talks about, and what two little nuggets in there that people should understand what this propagandist is talking about, is how they manipulate people via social media. How the Republican Party has it baked in that we can spread our lies unchecked via social media, and it helps us maintain and gain more power.
And not just the Republican Party of the United States of America, my brother, but right-wing parties
Authoritarian
here.
movements worldwide.
Straight up, including, and I will throw it back to you, into our own region of Catalonia, where Russia even had to testify in the courts of the Tribune in Madrid that, yes, they were using bots and fake bots and all these things to ply the system here,
Disinformation.
and that is the idea. We're going to throw up a little bit of music right now. There's a beautiful song that was, I believe, created by our brother, and I sent it to my boy Liam for this little clip, esta canción de antes. We're going to throw that away because we have to readjust for this next 45 minutes, and we'll be right back in just a couple of minutes, folks, with The Way Shh Works Now with your boys, Luke and Rob.
Welcome back.
The Way Shit Works. That was a beautiful little intro. Let's get back to some reality. Because
Talking disinformation, you know who just got confirmed as the Secretary of Health and Human Services?
Child.
The most qualified, the most ahead of the curve.
Dr. Oz?
No.
Shiza. What?
Not a doctor, actually. Funny story. You can boss around a bunch of doctors based on 4chan conspiracy theories about health and get popular about it and then sell your endorsement to the highest bidder and then become the Secretary of Health and Human Services.
And that
Who
is
I'm
exactly
talking
what
about,
happened.
of course, is the black sheep plague of the Kennedy family.
Oh my God. He really is. And as the black sheep of my family, I really understand.
Well, you don't eat roadkill and got a bunch of people in American Samoa killed
Who
because...
told you? Child. Exactly.
I mean, what is happening? So the Republican...
Could you explain the American Samoa thing really quickly if you know about it?
So his anti-vaccine campaign got to this area where vaccines were actually saving people's lives. They didn't take them, and they've died. Which is the situation now with measles. Measles is making a comeback after near eradication because people aren't taking the vaccine that wiped out measles.
All over Texas. Again, the state I was born. But let's
Now,
not forget
New
that
Mexico.
during the pandemic, it was New York as well.
And now New Mexico. So measles, make measles great again. We have our Make Measles Great Again team running HHS based on whatever they see on a podcast or whatever nonsense study they can grab onto.
And they do.
And we wanted to talk about, like, the didn't earn it administration. I don't want to hear that used for DEI programs ever again. Oof. So if you set up a nursing room for your pregnant employee, that's didn't earn it. But RFK Jr. telling doctors what to do. A maniac grifter is telling doctors what to do and examining the childhood vaccination schedule.
While they're cutting and gutting, while Doge
NIH
is gutting NIH and all of the people again, so many of the people that were working on this bird refuge, bird flu, they're gone, and now they're hiring them back. But guess what? What was that? Was that, or am I confusing that with the people where they lost all of the?
It was the nuclear
their
safety
emails?
technician. The nuclear safety technicians that they said, "Oops, we didn't mean to fire the people that look over America's nuclear arsenal. That's safe." No, this situation is also combined with the fact that they take off
The complete incompetence.
they're taking public health data off of government websites like the CDC, the FDA. You can't go into there and find basic
find
public health
basic
data.
information.
And is RFK Jr. going to do anything about that? I think you brought a clip about just a comedian discussing RFK Jr.'s relevance and experience, and I think we should see it and talk about it.
I really do think so as well. Now she is often on
Well, this is on
The
Piers
Boys
Morgan.
with TYT,
Yeah.
but she went on Piers Morgan, and she had a little bit something to say about RFK and his now stature as the head of health in the United States of America at
Secretary of
2025.
Health and Human Services, Robert
Let's listen
F.
to what
Kennedy
this comedian Ms. Hista had to say. Oh, sorry. We did not light it up, yeah? The next clip, Pepe, por favor.
He comes from a good place of wanting to make America a healthier place. What's wrong with that?
No, I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I think he is the picture of health himself. I mean, he's a roided up 70-year-old who doesn't believe in germ theory and eats roadkill. I think that is perfect. He sounds like he's speaking into a fan half the time, and he doesn't believe in vaccines. He wants to replace healthcare in this country with Ozempic, and he also wants to limit access to antidepressants and psychiatric meds for all Americans and replace it with things like meditation. If we think we have a mental health care crisis in this country now, just you wait until RFK Jr. is finished with this country. If you think there is some sort of drug epidemic, people are going to be buying Adderall on the black market in insane amount. He also thinks that Jewish people and Chinese people can't get COVID. That was a fun one. You should tell that to my uncle. Oh, wait, he's dead. Also, 83 Samoans also dead from the anti-vax work that he did in American Samoa. Just as there's a measles outbreak in Texas right now because of the kind of lies about vaccines that he has spilled. But honestly, Piers, other than that, truly a picture of health.
No, spot the lie.
Drop the mother effing mic right
Spot
there.
the lie. Which was any bit of that, even the meager, minimalist bit of dishonest. No. And my problem is that we live in this generation where the loudest speakers get to be put on the same level as expertise. So, hey, I can run a conspiracy theory video on YouTube for 30 million people, and that will be just as equally valid as CDC research papers. It's insane, man.
And sad. It is sad because of the misinformation, but also it's a lack of education. You know, I'm going to quote the Bible right now because I believe it says that my people perish for a lack of knowledge. I'll add vision into that, vision and knowledge. And this is what's happening, truly. I mean, she just talked about it. 83 American Samoans. Those are Americans, by the way, U.S. Americans.
The state of Louisiana is taking down guidance on their childhood vaccination schedules. The Republican Party is fully all in on this anti-science contingent of their coalition. It's absolutely insane. Like vaccines.
I do question my own science issues. Shout out Maxwell.
Question science all you want. That's fine. Then, when you come to an acceptable answer, a peer-reviewed, empirical data-backed acceptable answer, you then don't get to say, nah, that's big science. Nah, Tucker Carlson, he's got the real goods. No, question everything. Be skeptical. Question the media. Question studies. Question the government.
Question us.
Question us. Are you kidding me?
course.
If you don't
That's the
question
idea.
us, what's wrong with you?
Well, no, it's not wrong with you because we're not going to be telling you shit. We're going to be telling you the way ish works now and with fact to back it up.
Trust but verify is what I
go into it. Go into it. Do your deep dive, but not necessarily utilizing even Google, for example. If you go up to Google right now and look up the success rates of Elon Musk SpaceX, they tell you that it's a 99.43 success rate. But what they don't tell you until you really deep read more is that it's only specifying the one successful rocket that he's created and launched over and over. Because all the other rockets that he's launched since then, and there's statistics that are using from 11 years ago, have exploded. Not all of them, but a plurality, and some of the rocket models, the majority have exploded.
It's a continuous problem.
It
It's a
is a
continuous
We're
problem.
finding they've just found out as of last night that a lot of the rubble is in Europe. It's flown not just in
Yeah.
Latin America, but it's right here in Europe.
In one of his launching stations. The issue, of course, is that it would be nice if the FAA could look into some of this in America.
But what?
Well-
Here's one of the things. They have all of the investigations of things that they're shutting down. They were investigating Tesla for a number of things, including
Fatalities, car crashes. How many recalls have they had for
and
Teslas?
SpaceX as well. But guess what? All of the government agencies that were funding that and were investigating that,
They're
those
under
people
attack.
have been, not only have they been under attack, they've been stopped, and all the investigations have been stopped. And I believe since the inauguration of the United States President Donald Trump, he has gained
Vice
President Trump. President Musk has gained, was it 400 billion
He's up to
in contracts?
No. So there's two different things there. So there was a $400 million
Million,
contract
excuse me, yes.
for the State Department to buy. What was that horrible truck he sells?
The
That's like-
Cybertruck.
Yeah. So it was worded. The contract was worded in a way that only Cybertrucks could fit the definition. And then Queen Maddow, put the spotlight on it, and now they've reversed course. They always just make a statement, and who knows if they're going to do it. But Elon's wealth has risen hundreds of billions of dollars since Trump was elected. That is two separate
It has
things.
gone up from 200 and something billion to 340 and climbing.
I just
billion.
don't understand how the man whose rockets are always crashing and his cars are always being recalled and his social media site isn't worth a fraction of what he paid for it is in charge of government efficiency. Unelected, unaccountable, no oversight whatsoever from Congress, courts, or the American people. How are we doing this? And people are making excuses for it. Big balls. How many times
Okay.
can I say that without getting thrown off the radio, you think?
Well, you can say it as many times, especially right here, because one of the things that just came out, and I honestly, I don't necessarily accept this as fact, but there's a report that has come out as of
Suspicious.
light now that is suspicious.
Suspicious.
And I'll just read a portion of this because it says, look, it's not ideal the decisions of the federal government is being made and gutted by agencies, by Elon Musk and a team of 20-something-year-old edgelords who are in debt to this tech bro wannabe piece of crap. But 19-year-old Edward Korestein, otherwise known as the Doge staffer who goes by the name of Big Balls,
Big balls.
apparently has been found out to be, and this is according to an independent journalist, Jacob Silverman, he is the grandson of Valery Martinov, a former KGB spy. Martinov was an officer in the Technical Espionage Division of the Russian intelligence agency back in 1980, when he was sent to the U.S. to serve as an undercover agent at the Soviet embassy in D.C. 2 years into his stay, Martinov got flipped by the FBI and started to feed the U.S. government Soviet secrets. He was eventually identified as a compromised KGB counterintelligence officer by the name, whose real name was Viktor Cherkashin, who had himself successfully developed successful sources within the U.S. intelligence agencies. In order to get Martinov back to Russia, without him suspecting being found out, Cherkashin, this other counterintelligence officer, Cherkashin, was asked to escort another Soviet spy back home. It's a long story that Silverman explains in detail in his report. And as soon as the plane touched down, Martinov was arrested and then executed in the USSR.
Wow.
That is apparently, this is a deep dive. Again, you can look up that journalist's name is Jacob Silverman, and he's written all about the connections of this family going back to this kid, Edward
Yeah, and I
Korestein.
thought the eugenics guy on the Doge team was the worst possible
but
option.
he was fired back. Don't
And
worry.
rehired. Fired.
Fired and rehired.
Via Twitter poll that Elon didn't like the idea that he quit. So he said, no, come on back. You're qualified. I know you love eugenics, but let's put some government money. Let's put some taxpayer money in your pocket to hack the U.S. government. That's kind of crazy. And what's crazy about the fact that these mainstream right-wing leaders and movements and organizations, you're never more than a stone's throw away from Putin. Every single right-wing movement. Why do you, imagine if,
Sounds like something Hillary said 9 years ago.
Sounds like, what is so the soft power of this is
Look it up.
this disinformation spreading is absolutely nuts. People live in these echo chambers now. People live in these information silos now, and what they're getting is pure disinformation baby birded into their brains by shills of Vladimir Putin in Tennessee, in Nashville, one of my favorite places to go to a bachelor party. In Nashville, Tennessee, there was a independent, leaning right, Tim Pool contingent of media people that were going to tell you what's what. Oh, they were on the Russia payroll.
Just as was Kesh Patel on the Russia payroll?
So no, Kash Patel, they have reports that yes, that he was affiliated with a production company to shit on the FBI. We can get into Kash Patel too if you want, but he was part of a production company making a attack movie about the FBI that members of this production company were funded as well by Putin,
Russian
stooges.
sources.
Yeah, so that's Kash Patel also like sells magic elixirs and QAnon songs. So that's going to be a fun
And
period.
baby books about how King Donald.
King Donald. J. Edgar Hoover is spinning in his grave right now about
Let us not forget that
how
also
corrupt one could possibly be.
after throwing in these congestion charges back into New York City,
Oh, that's awesome.
in the middle of the night, King Donald put up a quote that I've saved. What did he put?
Long live the king.
Long live the king.
Long
I've
live
saved congestion taxes in in New York City.
Forget federalism, and that's not how anything works. but
Exactly, and
yes.
states' rights.
Right.
Now, but on top of that, the White House Department then put up a fake Time magazine cover with him as king.
It's important to watch the White House. Social
Watch
media
what they do,
pages.
not what they say.
Like, you don't have to like what's happening. You should be informed of the propaganda that's being produced with your tax dollars under the White House
With your
and
tax
official
dollars.
presidency communication portals. I'm actually going to get super famous by reading a bunch of press conferences. You and I are going to go to an expats English show here in Barcelona, and all I'm going to do is just read propaganda from the Trump administration, just word for word. Nothing else. No jokes, no commentary. I'm just going to read the press releases. I'm going to read the social media posts. Pay attention to what's actually happening here. Like, you need to know what they're saying in order to fight them better. You know, you can't be blindsided because something the right wing has been talking about for 10 years is now a federal program.
But more than anything, too, as well, my loves, pay attention to what they're doing. Because it's what they're doing, you know, sticks and stones and all that, but the sticks and stones will break your bones and will F you up. Words will hurt you, too. But let's keep shit real. Now, in the meantime, really quickly, just so I can gutter something beautiful into the mix here. Public domain. It's so fun to use public domain. Why? Because we don't have to pay no royalties with it. But one of the things that I love as a nerd of cinema and culture and fashion and all things of that nature. By the way, the new fashion for men out of New York is going to be beautiful for $25. Just saying, look it up. Ralph Lauren, you did it again. I love you, man. But
It was a good show we had.
Yeah, honestly, it's a fun show. But Singing in the Rain has now just entered the public domain. And we're going to throw just a couple of ditties minutes as well, because then we're going to come back with our fun bitch session. But what many people don't know is I abhor musicals. I'm one of those gay brothers that doesn't like musicals very much, unless it's Disney cartoons. I dig that usually.
That's crazy because I
But-
actually kind of do like musicals, and I'm a straight white guy.
But do you like Disney cartoons?
I mean, whatever my wife makes me watch, but like Sweeney Todd, Wicked,
Okay.
what's the Trey Parker, Matt Stone one? Sorry. It was...
No, I'm just kidding. No, Sweeney Todd actually is fantastic. I like historical stuff too, but whatever. But I didn't know. My ex and I watched Singing in the Rain a few years ago in 21 under the lockdown. One of the many we had here in Europe. And the whole idea of this history of Singing in the Rain, and yes, we're going to throw this on just for a couple minutes, is that it's a historical look and a musical take with Gene Kelly and Fred Astaire, Ginger Rogers dance on air. But they were talking about how when we did this cinema shift from when people were doing black and white and there was, silent films to the talkies of the 20s and 30s, some people were very, very beautiful, but their voices were terrible and they couldn't be heard. And so many people and many actors of that time lost their career. And that's what this documents. And I never knew that. It's a fabulous thing. Here's a couple of minutes of Singing in the Rain, which is actually from a review that happened in 1929. And we'll be right back with some more bitch sessions for you, my children, on the way. Shh, works now with Lucas and Rob.
I'm singing in the rain, just singing in the rain. What a glorious feeling, I'm happy again. I'm laughing at clouds so dark up above. The sun's in my heart, and I'm ready for love. Let the stormy clouds chase everyone from the place. Come on with your rain, I've got a smile on my face. I'll walk down the lane with a happy refrain, just singing, singing in the rain. Why am I happy and why do I sing? Why does December seem sunny as spring? Why do I get up each morning to start happy and head up with joy in my heart? Why is each new task a trifle to do? Because I'm living a life full of you. I'm singing in the rain, just singing in the rain. What a glorious feeling, I'm happy again. I'm laughing at clouds so dark up above. The sun's in my heart and I'm ready for love. Let the stormy clouds chase everyone from the place. Come on with your rain, I've got a smile on my face. I walk down the lane with a happy refrain, just singing, singing in the rain.
Because singing in the rain is all you can do sometimes. No, I don't think it's going to... Is it raining today?
It's been raining for a week. Like we're in Noah's Ark territory right now. It's
something like that. It's still winter, but spring is springing forth. Children of the Corn. It usually comes here a little bit early because it's the Mediterranean.
Yeah.
Now, so much of the banter that we're certainly getting, and we have to also talk about the mixed playing field that is here, because what many people don't know outside of the United States, or even within the confines of the United States of America, is that over 1/3, about 35% of the population only get their news from Fox News and Christian radio. Now, the other, 60-65% get their news from headline news, CNN, MSNBC, NBC, ABC, CBS radio.
Local.
So when you break that down, the other 65% divided by 15 different outlets, you're getting slivers. And that's why it seems like there's such an amalgamation always of this disinformation, because it really is a big chunk, over 1/3, that only get fed crap. So one thing that we definitely don't want here at the Way Shit Works podcast is for people to continuously be thinking that between 21 and 25, January 21 and January 25, under President Biden and Vice President Harris, that everything was shite. I want people to remember that when they came into office, not only did we have, depending on the region and state that you were living in, 15 to 30% unemployment was in every state. Okay, obviously it balanced out to 20-something%, but depending on the state that you were living in, 30% of people in some of these poorer states did not have work to go back to, and these jobs never came back. On top of that, we had not just 100 or a few, thousands of people dying every day of COVID.
Refrigerator trucks outside of hospitals, every single part of America,
and 26% of the entire deficit and debt that the United States has ever accrued had just been done under Donald Trump. In fact, it came out to a grand total of $8.3 trillion that he threw into the mix. This is what Biden and Harris interpreted.
And don't forget, 15 days earlier was January 6th. Like, this is what the man walked
14 days, 2 weeks earlier.
Yeah, excuse my math.
Mm-hmm.
14 days earlier. So the man, Joseph Robinette Biden, it's mea culpa time, folks.
Yeah. So
I need to hear people apologizing. I need to hear, they need to be heartfelt. They need to be beautiful apologies. And the person with the lamest apology to Joe Biden is getting punched.
So punch him with some facts, please, because I really think that is some of the stuff that needs to be thrown out there. Because
it makes me angry. It
does. It makes us righteously indignant, but I think that we fight that anger with fact. We're going to throw some shit at you. So, because that's the way it works now, Children of the Corn.
I want to talk about the historic pace of legislation, even with a 50-50 Senate. 2 of those senators in the coalition no longer part of the party or in Congress of
bye bitches. Don't let the door hit you on the way out.
And Joe Manchin. One's a coal baron and the other has an identity crisis a week. They were dinos,
Okay.
Democrats in name only, to steal that Republican name. But we still got historic things done. So first of all, the American Rescue Plan, which was the first big initiative out of the Biden administration to help us address COVID, was not supported by a single Republican at all. Donald Trump lobbied against it and trashed it. And if he had won presidency, was never going to pass it. He was done with the second tiny little sliver of a COVID package. The American Rescue Plan cut child poverty in half, stabilized the employment market in America, created a hyper-efficient vaccine distribution network through the federal government. If you remember, Donald Trump wanted everybody to fight. All the states had to outbid each other for masks and tests. It was a disaster. It would have been handled the exact same way under a Trump administration, because he literally tweeted that. He said, "We'll make the vaccine and good luck." The Biden administration's American Rescue Plan literally rescued America.
He just said literally, folks.
It rescued America. It did. From the depths of the worst of the COVID pandemic, the American Rescue Plan was one of the most amazing pieces of legislation ever passed.
Damn right.
And it took America from the worst of the pandemic to a best in the world post-pandemic recovery. No other country has come even close. No other first world country has come even close to America's recovery from COVID. And that was under the direct leadership of the Biden-Harris administration. Joe Biden's decades of experience in crafting legislation and negotiating with Congress, different houses.
I will
got
say,
that
if
bill
I may
passed.
really quickly interrupt, I will say now that he's gone, the strongest economy to pull out post-pandemic now is the country we live in.
Spain.
I just have to throw that in there. But yes, the U.S. and Spain have done some good stuff. So
Absolutely.
please continue. I'm so sorry.
And you know, under some very similar principles, you know, middle out.
Damn right.
bottom
Left,
up, middle
center,
out.
left parties.
Center left. It's me. I've been everywhere. I've been a Republican. I've been a Libertarian. I've been a Green. I've been on
everywhere,
I've been on every spectrum. Center left. I promise it's the way to go. And that was the Biden-Harris administration. They governed in a very center left style.
He said it. He's been on every spectrum. I ain't saying it, folks. I ain't saying it. Shit, he been on it.
I got a box full of donated conservative author books to tell you I've been all over libertarian treatises.
Oh my nerves.
in the trash.
My
over the
father can
years.
tell you about his libertarian days. But
So,
what about the
Bidens?
and the crime going down? Because that is a major thing
Astronomical
that
on the
Christian
Bidens.
radio and Fox News throws out in their propaganda shite.
Crime. You got to be tough on crime. You know, the felon who's breaking 1,000 federal laws a week.
34 times indicted.
Under Joe Biden, under President Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris, we saw 3-year drastic drops in violent crime and murder.
Exactly.
Massive drops. They went up
Violent
to
crime and
historic
murder.
highs
Massive.
under Trump. They were at near historic highs in the final year of Trump, and they were cuddling every single year of the Biden administration. The number of violent crime and the murder percentages all went drastically down. Property crime by significantly less, but still going down as well.
You know, the
crime.
only thing that did not seem to go down, and I do want to make a mention of this because it has been going
The
up.
employment numbers?
Well, right?
Never
Child?
a negative month in his entire term. Once he started actually governing, never had a
the
negative
unemployment
jobs month.
term was between 3.4 and 4% unemployment in a country of nearly 340
How is he not the
million
president
people.
right now? It makes me so angry that we could have
Well,
had.
he dropped out. That would have been another thing. He couldn't have been the
He
president.
was
but Kamala,
forced out. And I love Kamala. I worked my ass off to get her elected. I think she's the front runner for next time. I don't like the shiny object of the man's age was used against him as a weapon while he was traveling the country every single week. He was traveling the world 2 times a month. He was doing dozens of events a week.
We cannot lie. It was that.
The debate.
It was the debate.
It was the debate where he was sick with COVID for the first 10 minutes where Donald Trump would spew 1,000 lies and then he'd go, I'm sorry, what is this? This is a debate? I've been to 5,000 of these in my life. CNN would go, oh, that's a bunch of crap,
It is,
Donald
but the
Trump.
reality of the
There you
fact
go.
is we do live in a world where the look and the presentation is a lot of everything.
Yeah, how's that going? How's that going, everybody? How's the optics? How's the optics going right now?
The thing is, when you've been brainwashed for so long and you truly believe that Mary was a virgin and things of that nature, it is easy to deal with simpleton factors. And when you're dealing with simpletons who have been spoon-fed this brainwash for so long, I remember watching, even Oprah had a special about it years ago about how they got out of QAnon, and every one of them said they were all, Lord bless them, big fat Christians. But they all said, I just grew up in an era where what my daddy said and what the pastor said, that's just what I believed because the Lord and my parents were saying it. And so when you have hundreds of millions of people that live this way, and again, it's just not there, it's everywhere. I mean, Brexit didn't happen just by willy-nilly shite. It is easy to plague them. And then when you've got everyone addicted to social media, why not?
Just a lies machine, social media. Like you, it's curated for you to make you angry, to make you upset, to make you afraid. It's basically like cigarettes for your brain. And they all trash Biden. Here's another thing. Every single one of these social media sites, the owners of these social media pages, every single one of these people were at Trump's inauguration after a nice 4 years of letting dis and misinformation run rampant during the 4 Biden
One of them
years.
tripping on ketamine, very
Very
obviously.
possible, maybe so, maybe no, but
Allegedly.
Allegedly.
But the brother says that he microdoses daily for his mental health and Asperger's syndrome with ketamine. He
he's the
has
guy that
stated
says
this
he's
as well.
proud to have never done therapy.
And then smokes big old Bob Marley joints with Joe Rogan. Now, I'd like to say Joe Rogan is now the number 2 podcast in the country because the Midas Touch is the number 1, at least for this month so far.
Let's go center left. Let's go center left. Let's get those numbers up. Let's get these numbers up too.
Oh, Frank, that's right.
I want to talk about another couple of things where we were to help better inform where we are.
Amen.
Because right now, things are being erased that were good things.
Yes.
Like $35 caps on insulin spending was passed by the Biden-Harris administration in
affecting
the Inflation
a score of millions of people, actually.
Millions of Americans deal with diabetes. And I believe the last number was something close to 14 million.
I mean, we wonder why when 72%, now this is the thing, 72% of the U.S. population is severely overweight or obese.
Right.
72. And it's 63% for my British brethren and sister, by the way.
RFK is going to handle all that.
I'm going to tell you what, we're going to meditate ourselves. Now, by the way, I am not against meditation. I meditate hours a day sometimes.
I have to learn to do more.
But I also understand the need when I need to take a Xanax and calm my ish down.
So that's another significant thing that is being changed right now under the Trump administration. Also, limiting overdraft fees. How many Americans live paycheck to paycheck? How many Americans live paycheck to paycheck? And the Biden-Harris administration capped overdraft fees. The Trump administration,
it's the majority, by the way. The answer is the majority.
Right. And now the Republicans in Congress and the Trump administration are trying to erase that. The largest federal infrastructure project since Eisenhower was passed. The largest amount of infrastructure spending since Eisenhower was passed under the Biden-Harris administration's infrastructure plan, which we're building heavily decrepit bridges, which we're upgrading our national ports and airports, and lead pipes, so kids aren't getting all sorts of negative health impacts from lead in their water.
And here's two
Trump's rolling this all back.
Here's 2 clear examples of that. Within days, they had repaired the Baltimore bridge that fell. Do you remember that?
Yes,
within 2 weeks,
crash
after saying that it would be 2 months,
Yeah.
they repaired the major thoroughfare interstate highway of Pennsylvania within 2 weeks, not 2 months, 2 weeks, because of this infrastructure things. Now, what pissed me off more than anything and made me more than righteously indignant was the fact that every single Republican voted against these things, but then the minute that billions were coming in, they went and they would do ribbon cutting things and
With Biden. He's like, see you at the cutting.
See how we did
Yep.
it.
Yep.
See what we did while voting against it.
Right.
And this is the shit that needs to be called out consistently whenever it happens. But what I want to see is bigger people, bigger pundits, bigger celebrities of the politicians, of what have you, going onto the podcast, going to the ribbon cutting scene and saying, thank you, Democrats, for making this stuff happen. Because for those of you and the millions and millions of you who have been paying for the last 2 years, 35 cap insulin, it's gone up to hundreds again. In fact,
they're without a doubt gutting the initiatives to lower your prescription drug costs. They're gutting the initiatives to lower your medical costs. And guess what's coming up next year? The subsidies for health insurance for tens of millions of Americans are coming up next year.
In 2026.
Under Donald Trump, under this Republican Congress. So you're going to get a multi-trillion-dollar budget-busting tax cut, and they're going to kick tens of millions of people off their Obamacare. We love calling it Obamacare now. Obamacare coverage, and gut Medicaid down to a fraction of its size. We did so much good for 4 years. Don't just look up the laws passed. Look up the policy changes. Look up the federal judges confirmed. He beat Trump. He outbeat Trump. And so normal constitutionally
Except for the Supreme
coherent.
Court. I really think he should have put 3 more in there.
Yeah, right.
I mean, in every jury of the land, you need 12 angry men and women there, except the Supreme Court. And we've had 13 at one point. So I
right,
really...
the numbers have changed all the time. That becomes a little bit more complicated because then does every Congress just take or remove justices based on politics? What I'd love to see
Well, you
is term
can't
limits.
remove them. You can only add
You could
them.
impeach him. I mean, you could the Senate could impeach him technically, but I mean, I think what should be happening is term limits. I think there should be term limits on every single federal judge possible. The Republican Party will never do that when there's a hyper-conservative majority, but they will be a lot more open to that.
Do you see term limits as well for senators? Grassley is 93 years old.
Yeah, I mean, so the thing about term limits is that it makes sense in a judicial.
God
I
bless.
think it makes sense a lot more in a
93-year-olds.
judicial saying. I think it makes a lot more sense in a judicial capacity than it does in a legislative capacity.
Okay.
You're directly electing your elected representatives, whereas the Supreme Court is just a matter of being confirmed by the Senate.
Correct.
I think it's a little different in that case because if you're contributing to your districts, I think you should keep a job. But then you have these situations like Grassley, or you have all this horrible gerrymandering that keeps people in their seats that are completely uncompetitive. I think you could talk term limits for members of Congress. I could be into it. I just think their term should be longer then. If we're going to do term limits,
Then not 2 years.
Yeah, not 4 years, not 2 years. Make a longer term, and then I could be open-minded to term
Okay.
limits for sure. Because then you can get more shit done in the chunk. 4 years, by year 2, you're already running for another election.
And that's the way we want shit getting done and working now.
And the last thing that's being held up right now is one of the single greatest pieces of legislation ever passed, and it was on a bipartisan basis, the CHIPS and Sciences Act. The CHIPS and Sciences Act is going to be paying dividends for generations. It puts tens of billions of dollars into scientific
Tens
research.
of billions and billions, man.
And reshored the microchip makers in America. So the main reason, a massive contributor to the pandemic inflation was the collapsing supply chains and the different countries that we were getting these microchips from.
Exactly.
They're now being made in America until Donald Trump put his little paws on everything.
Now, it has not been necessarily stopped at the moment, so let's make that. But that's
He's
the idea. Is they're going to, within the weeks to
doing
months to come.
We're banning chip imports. He's putting tariffs on all these countries.
Which is ridiculous because the United States, as of the end of the administration of Biden, was the number one chip manufacturer or was at the number one position in the world. After years of, usually Chinese or Asian markets doing it. And so
it's so necessary. They're in every single product you have, your refrigerator, your phones, your cars. That will drastically save costs in another crisis.
I want my middle class and upper middle class and lower middle class people to realize that, to paraphrase Sinead O'Connor, but I'm not going to hold up a picture of the Pope, fight the real enemy and rip the right out of your mentality that it's right, so it's right, because it's not. And it has not been better under the administration of any right-wing leader for the economy either. And if it is really, truly the economy stupid, I want you to look at, please, how Reagan ended and how Bush handed it.
No, read my lips, no new taxes. I remember I was
8 years old, child.
Yep.
And what is the first thing that he did? And who had to save it? The Clinton administration.
If you go over the economic numbers of Clinton, Obama, and Biden, and you compare them to Vice President Trump and George W. Bush and Reagan, it's not even remotely
Nothing
close.
to see.
And,
the same thing applies here in Spain, folks.
But let me tell you, it's not only
Look
that
it up,
under
bitches.
Democrat presidents have superior economic performance in the United States of America.
No, but I'll
it's
tell
that
you
their
what it is.
policies also help the most Americans.
That's the idea. Because what, unfortunately, and even when we're again talking about European politics, right-wing factions and parties only are viewing their constituents, and usually it's the top 10% of those constituents. They do not understand that in a 2025 world, you have to look at the 100%, and that's what center, left, and leftist policies do, because they realize everybody's got to eat, everybody's got to work, and that is what stipulates the major differences, because sometimes there is seemingly a very fine line between what's left and what's right, but I don't even want to get to that.
The first term ran on, we can't let people dying in the streets. So, I mean, it's very simple.
And like you said just 15, 20 minutes ago, every single major city had boxcars of freezers for dead bodies. That is what Harris and Biden entered. And what they left him was, according to The Economist magazine, the strongest economy in the history of the world.
There was a baby
And he's
formula
running it into the
crisis.
ground. Look at the stock markets as we lose every single mother effing weekend. The stock markets have not gone up. This is the first time also in modern history that a new, administration comes in and the stocks start tanking or middle of the roading.
I want apologies for Biden.
Amen. And we
Loud
want
apologies.
you, mother lovers, mother, fathers, Chinese dentists, to follow us
Everyone.
at our interwebs, which you can find our new growing YouTube site is The Way Works Now with Lucas and Rob, but that is The Way Works Now. And of course, as well at Instagram for now anyway, and Blue Sky popping up this next month. The Way Shit Works Now podcast. Remember, we're going to be throwing a lot of these clips as well. One of the things that I love that my brother does every day is he gives you factoid information that you can get in 15-second snippets on our new Instagram page, which we truly just launched days ago. So follow us there on Instagram, folks. We're going to throw a little bit of music. Again, we want to thank all of our lovely artists that contribute this. We want to thank the public domain as well for the 100 years of, of good stuff you've thrown for us to use. And one last thing, yes, please, because you just saw him
Read
quickly.
this book, On Tyranny by Timothy Snyder. Read it again, read it 3 times. He talks about all of the tyrannical regimes of the 19th century and lessons that we can learn from it.
And also, there's a
Read
new...
it.
Oh, thank you, my brother. On Timothy by Timothy Snyder. He was actually
Great
just
job,
here
as
on
always.
Tyranny. But he also has just released another version of it that's updated.
On freedom and so he's updated on tyranny and has a new book on freedom. He was here in Barcelona. I got to see him speak. The man's a genius. He's a trendsetter. We know a lot more thanks to him, and follow his works. Very, very educational.
And hopefully, my beautiful people, you know a lot more because of what we've been given to you. And we're going to be doing this all the time because Lucas has a political bone. I am an historian and an educator here outside of the country of the United States and here in Spain and Catalonia. So we also want to give a mad shout out to all these people who have given us their music. Remember, if you are in the Mediterranean region or in Barcelona on the 2nd of March, Sunday, fashion cares, and so do we. Folks, this is The Way Shit Works podcast. We're going to leave you with a little bit of my favorite pianist here, jazz pianist in Barcelona. This is Giovanni Chizzani with 18 de Marzo, 18th of March. Folks, we will see you very soon. Same bat time and channel. Keep it real, keep it loved. Bye.
Thank you.